Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome back to another lesson on leadership here at Manhood University. We're glad you joined us this morning. I hope you're ready to learn. We spent the last lesson learning to take the blame when things go wrong. So we're going to take a bit of a turn this week, and we're going to ask you this question. How many of you like being the best? I imagine every hand would go up in the room, right? And that means this lesson is for everyone. So we're going to share some insights on leadership today that are geared towards those of us who are used to being top performers. We're going to base this on two men who you may have heard of. The first is Moses. Now, Moses was charged with keeping over 1 million people fed, clothed, inspired, trained, and eventually ready to fight for their future. And then we're going to talk about Saul, who was Israel's first king. And to frame this lesson, I want us to focus on the proverb that tells us that in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. That's 11 and 14 for those who are keeping track. Look, most of us want to be the man. And that means we can get blinded by our egos from time to time and be pushed to try to know and do everything. When we're promoted, it's usually for continued performance of certain tasks or in a certain field that goes above and beyond. And that can make us believe that in order to keep seeing promotions, we have to keep outperforming the field. When we're promoted into leadership, however, there's a shift. We are placed in charge of others who are now supposed to perform those tasks and excel in those fields. New leaders can find themselves overworked and underperforming if we don't recognize that we have to let the people who work for us work for us. It is their time to shine now. We shine based on how well we lead them. When a leader doesn't grasp this concept, he'll expend energy with no discernible progress. And this can happen in one of two ways. First, you may try to perform every task because you think you'll do it better. What this communicates is a lack of trust in your subordinates, and that'll leave you to finish projects on your own, but you can't. Now your leaders are wondering how this stellar performer, given an opportunity to prove that he can play at the next level, can't get his people to follow him. Hey, does any of this sound familiar? These guys just don't have it. I got to do it myself. If you find yourself doing all the work because you're truly convinced that no one can do it better than you probably need to retake the previous lesson. You are the leader. If you're killing yourself to make it happen and your team isn't, you hired them. Listen, you could be made to look like an idiot, and don't get upset. Let me tell you why. Either you're not setting expectations, you're willing to work late to cover their shortcomings, you won't train them to a higher standard, or you won't give that ultimatum that says, hey, you either improve performance or you seek employment elsewhere. That wound is self-inflicted. Now, someone on your team, realistically more than just someone, but someone on your team is capable of performing at the standard necessary to free you up for big picture things. You've got to let it go. If you think you're the only person who can do it right, you should have stayed where you were. We get a really good solution to this when we look at Moses trying to lead over 1 million people. Okay, the solution is actually from his father-in-law, and he gives it after watching Moses spend the entire day from sunup to sundown trying to judge an entire population. Jethro told him he was going to wear himself out. So he suggests that he select capable men from all the people, men who feared God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, over hundreds, over 50s, over 10s. What ends up happening is that the simple cases were judged by the appointed men, and only the truly difficult cases came to Moses. That means that there were, in fact, capable men under Moses. That's why you're in leadership, not to prove you can handle all the small potatoes better, but to make big picture decisions. Now, the second way you're going to find yourself spending time and energy that you don't have, right, is trying to compete with the people around you, the people under you. This might not sound like a big deal. You probably don't think it could ever be you, but I've watched so many new leaders have difficulty making the transition from being superstar to leading superstars. And there is a difference. You were so used to being that techie or that graphic artist or the whiz with PowerPoint and Excel that when someone on your team does it better than you want to show them up. Now you're reverting to the competing behaviors that you had when you were trying to get the promotion. But wait, you're already in charge. let that man work as hard for you as you did for your boss to make the project a success. Just like you needed to impress your leader, he needs to impress you to get the next opportunity. This issue pops up most often when promoted too soon or a little too late in the game. Now, when someone gives you the chance to skip ahead of the line, especially when you're still making huge contributions where you are, your inexperience with leading can make you feel like you have something to prove before people will take you seriously. Hey, we men, we're vicious when it comes to watching someone get promoted who hasn't paid their dues. But you should expect that. Some folks, they're just going to try to test you. Now, I'm not telling you you should take that new promotion and distance yourself from the day-to-day operations, but you were promoted for a reason and you are in charge. Why are you letting the employee who's awesome at his job draw you into a competition over who's better? Now you're down on his level instead of up where you belong, leading. Okay, I see what I just did there. So now we've got to stop and explain because I don't want anybody leaving the classroom with their chest puffed out looking down at people. What we're talking about is your position within the organization. That's the thing that's higher. You're obviously no better than anyone, but if your senior leader sees you letting yourself get tangled up in a fight with people on the level that you just left, you're proving that your promotion may have been premature. And now your boss is thinking, you're not ready to play at this level. Can you imagine repeating senior year at your old high school over and over again, just so you can stay close and keep the new and upcoming guys from breaking your old records? And let them be awesome where they are. That's high school stuff. When I see one of my subordinate leaders competing with people on his old level, we have a frank discussion, and it's about what his new position represents and why he was chosen for it. Now, that usually fixes the problem, but if not, I can tell you, I certainly will not be looking for reasons to highlight that man to my leaders until the change occurs, if ever. Now, King Saul gave an example of what happens when we're threatened by people who do it better than us, but work for us. David worked for him, but when Saul heard people singing David's praises, talking about how he essentially broke Saul's old records, he lost it. He got down on David's level and let his people and his God watch him try to slug it out with a man who was years away from being king. If Saul had any sense, he would have let David keep on fighting those giants, slaying tens of thousands and racking up victory after victory for him. Instead, he chose to pick a fight with a dead dog, a flea. I mean, that's really how David described himself in comparison to King Saul when he was on the throne. Now, on the other side of that coin, there's a leader who gets promoted a little later in his career. Now, if that's you, you've gotten so good at what you do that you have a reputation for being the best of the best. In fact, the argument can be made that few can do it like you do, which has probably led to a very comfortable job as an indispensable and integral cog in the machine. The net one day comes and a new hire shows up who has real potential, and then your leaders, they think that with the new guy around, you could be freed up to pair your vast knowledge of the industry with his talent and lead the team to the next level. So what happens when the young man that you've gotten under you starts producing better work than you did in half the time? Oh, not bothered? Okay, but what happens when the people around you start to bring it up on a pretty frequent basis? You're going to meetings now, though. You're talking long-term strategy and industry trends. But this guy's having fun. He's getting noticed real quick. And, it took you years to earn that kind of reputation in the company. And as you look around, you're now in a room full of leaders you're teamed up with, but it's clear that you are no longer the best of the best. You're struggling now to understand things that men 5 or 8 years younger than you have been working with for quite a while now. You may start to long for the glory days. Then let a big project fall on your team, the kind that your bosses used to seek you out for. And you can be thinking to yourself, great, now this new guy is going to get the credit. So now here you are between night classes that you're supposed to be taking to help yourself learn the language of leadership, but you're trying to compete with your subordinate to make contributions to a project that, wait for it, you are paying him to work on. It is literally his job now to make you shine. But instead, you want his glory and not your own. Next staff meeting, they ask you how the project is coming, and you've got details, intricate details. Why? Why would you do that? You want to prove that you still got it. Your leader wants to know that you can lead someone who now has it. Protecting your old turf takes time and effort that you could be spending growing at the next level. But you need to allow those men under you to prove themselves like you had to prove yourself. You're going to get pretty tired trying to prove you're the superstar of a team that you're supposed to be coaching. Listen to me, leaders. It's not often that the smartest person in the company is the one running it. In fact, like our opening proverb suggests, you should be looking for smart people to be part of your team. Along the same lines, the most capable employee doesn't usually get put in charge because the assembly line cannot run smoothly if its best asset is in the boardroom. Look, the best worker on your team may not be the best strategist, but that's why you're there. Back to Moses, when he received the instructions to build the tabernacle, he was given names of men who would be doing the intricate work. Moses didn't try to be better at everything. The tabernacle was a huge undertaking. Now, while there was mention of Bezalel and Aholiab, and the skilled workers who came to build the tabernacle, Moses tends to get most of the credit as the project manager. Gentlemen, when we make that transition from the superstar to the leader, it's hard because we're so in love with being the go-to guy. It's really great to be the one the leader counts on, but a leader's job is to take all those people who are gifted and talented and make big things happen. And yes, they will often be smarter than you and better at some things than you are. Now, go and lead them. Hey fellas, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We're going to spend a lot of time this semester talking about one of the most important jobs that men have, and that's leading. Hope to see you all back here for the next lesson. Take care, and God bless you.